Namo Sushri, Namo Uttama Shri Sudha, Om Namo Manjushri, Namo Sushri, Namo Uttama Shri Sudha, Om Namo Manjushri, Namo Sushri, Namo Uttama Shri Sudha. May I quickly become Guru Lord Buddha and leave each and every sentient being into his realm because of these merits. There's no cushions over here for them, just in case. What's up? No. So we just spend a minute or so just getting yourself into a really comfortable position. So relaxing the body, mind, sharpening the mind, and then focusing the mind, then setting your motivation before you do anything. Wonderful. This is the way to do it. This way you've got a running chance of success with your mind. So, keeping your back fairly straight. And we begin by half closing our eyes. And drawing the mind inward, we become interested in our breathing, imposing no rhythm at any time. Just simply notice the body breathing. And now we gently scan the body, from the crown of the head to the tips of the toes, simply noting any areas of tension and moving on. And now we notice that on the out breath, the tension rolls away from the body on each out breath. And as the tension flows from the body on your out breath, notice how relaxed your facial muscles have become, how soft the area around the eyes, how spacious between the eyebrows. Your shoulders have now dropped to a much more comfortable, relaxed position. Noticing your abdomen. Notice how much more responsive the abdomen is now. Each in-breath and out-breath. The movement of the abdomen with each in-breath and out-breath. And now you notice that on each in-breath, the mind is becoming brighter. It's just happening naturally. On each in-breath, the mind becoming sharp. And place this sharp, bright mind at the entrance to both nostrils, becoming fully aware of the sensation of the breath flow. Fully aware of the sensation of each in-breath and out-breath. Each in-breath and out-breath. And now you generate a strong, positive motivation for your session. Make it clear in your mind, and then shift your focus to that motivation and simply be with that motivation. Let nothing else interfere. Stay with it. to do so. You can do the prayers. Unless you would prefer to just sit with this positive motivation in your mind, that's good enough. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, O supreme amongst humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who were wise then, I prostrate. With pure bodies, formed supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Thus free like you, the 3 worlds are not, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Saviour having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Ruler, homage to the Dharma Refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all 3 have devout homage. To all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms, atoms in all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a visual aberration, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew, or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits, may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. So welcome. Thank you for coming out on such a cold night. Excellent. So this is the last teaching in a series of teachings we've been having for 3.5 weeks on presenting the Lamrim. And I know I say it every week, but each aspect of this Lamrim is worthy of a lot of study. Each aspect of a lot of study. But it is also extremely important that you see where everything fits in. If you can grasp where everything fits in, especially using the Lamrim as a structure, then it's quite difficult to become confused. People get confused with the Dharma because there is so much. It's looking at all these different methodologies. And people have difficulty, well, where does it fit in? Really, get to grips with the structure of the Lamrim, and you won't feel that for very long. You'll know where it fits in. Okay? And that's very empowering. The Lamrim is one of the most empowering structures you can find. So far, we've been looking at the methodology part of the Dharma. And as we know, you can classify the Dharma in many ways. You can talk about the threefold path, you can talk about ethics, concentration, and wisdom. You can talk about renunciation, bodhicitta, wisdom. It's all a different way of classifying it. One of the simplest ways is to look at the whole of the Dharma as having two wings, the wing of method and the wing of wisdom. And in that way, the mind flies well and truly. Everything we've done so far, up to and including bodhicitta, belongs to the method wing of the Dharma. Now you can imagine, what does it leave? It leaves wisdom, the wisdom. And there's only one thing that inhabits the wisdom wing of the Dharma, and that is the empty nature. Emptiness, the wisdom of emptiness, the wisdom of emptiness. How things actually exist. And so when we looked at the methodologies, all these different methodologies, looking at karma, maybe shamatha, precious human rebirth, bodhicitta, in general, Mahayana Buddhism, of all different hues, really there's very little difficulties there. There's a lot of agreement on these methodologies. With whatever school of Buddhism you're in, there's kind of an agreement. However, with the wisdom wing, there are differences. And so within Mahayana and Theravada, within the Mahayana, the different schools within Mahayana have interpreted the Buddha's teaching on emptiness in different ways, in slightly different ways. Now, these are teachings in themselves. There's all these different schools with different names. And so, depending who's giving you the teachings, say you went to another school and they were giving you a teaching on emptiness, it's very good to try and find out which school of emptiness they're coming from. What is their understanding of emptiness? Because as I say, emptiness is the one thing within the Dharma that people have slightly different views on. In fact, quite a lot of different views on. Where did it come from? It came from teaching of the Buddha, different interpretation. And within Tibetan Buddhism, you have schools, you might have heard names like Supantraka, Chittamatra, Mind Only, this type of thing. Have you heard of these names? A bit. Okay. Well, what is it? What it means is different groups, different schools have their own understanding of emptiness. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama says it's really good to actually come to grips and understand these different schools. So he doesn't see it as one school being better than other. The way emptiness is presented in these different schools, His Holiness says it's a bit like platforms. So you have a gross understanding, a very broad understanding of emptiness. So maybe one school sticks to that. Then you've got another school with slightly more subtle understanding of emptiness. And you have other schools that are slightly more understanding of emptiness. And then you have what's called the most subtle view of emptiness, which comes from the Prasangika Majjhimika. That's what it's called. Not to worry, spelling comes in here. So, where do you find this view of emptiness? Well, who taught emptiness? The Buddha taught it. But he also taught it at different times and in different ways. And the Buddha predicted that there would come a great scholar saint called Nagarjuna. I'm going to give you this news like Nagarjuna. And the Buddha predicted that Nagarjuna would actually put forward the clearest and the most profound explanation of emptiness. So the school that this organization represents is the Garupa school, the Garupa. And so the Garupa school, if you go back, the Garupa school was founded by Lama Tsongkhapa. Lama Tsongkhapa's views on emptiness comes from Nagarjuna and Chandrakirti. That's our sources, that's our lineage. Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti. And the great sages of the time, we've talked about the Lama Atisha with the Langren. This most profound explanation of emptiness, this is what he followed. And we talked about Shantideva with that, and he's the last word when it comes to Bodhicitta. What was his view? His view was the Prasangika Majjhimika, this most subtle view of emptiness. And of course, his Holiness the Dalai Lama, holding all the lineages within the Garupa school and other schools, he puts forward this view of emptiness. Now, talking a lot about emptiness without saying what it is, but I think it's important to understand that where there is no difficulties and very little difference when it comes to methodologies, you will find differences when it comes to wisdom, the wisdom bit. And so it's possible you could be traveling along this road and go to another teaching and you might hear something different. And what tends to happen then, people get quite confused. Which is why this Holiness the Dalai Lama says it's really worthwhile when you start to study this, is really get a good grip on all the schools and use the schools as a platform, what he calls for viewing the most subtle view. Okay? Now, do you remember my favorite contents page? Let me see my favorite. Of this. We started off 3.5 weeks ago, really looking at this contents of the Lamrim. And we looked at how it was divided into initial scope, medium scope, and great scope. And now we have to think with wisdom here. Although it's presented linearly, this is not how it is. Everything in part, your understanding of each aspect will impact on other aspects. No more so than your growing understanding of the nature of reality. So initially, in the initial scope, wisdom comes into this. Remember, the person that has this motivation, this aspiration of the initial scope is someone who is looking for a different life, a better life. Next time round, may I have a better life? Yes? Very laudable. Who would want anything different? So understanding of emptiness certainly initially starts here. The more you can impugn this scope of emptiness, the closer you come to your goal. The medium scope within the Lamrim, this is a person whose inspiration, motivation is saying to himself, is saying, look, it's not good enough to have a better life the next time out. I want to be totally liberated from samsara. This is nothing but a veil of tears, suffering, terrible. And so, emptiness is greatly enhanced. Your understanding of emptiness is crucial within this immediate scope. Because the one thing that frees you from suffering is understanding emptiness. So in the initial scope, you're lightly using it, it's enhancing all your understanding. But in the intermediate scope, you focus quite a lot. It has to develop extremely strongly in this middle scope. Because it's no use wishing for liberation if you do not have completely an intellectual understanding of emptiness and a taste of it, and actually able to realize it in and out of meditation. In the great scope, this is an individual who says liberation is not enough. What about everybody else? I can become liberated, but do you want to leave everyone else behind? They're still suffering. So emptiness comes into its full flourishing in this scope. Full flourishing. Because together with bodhicitta, both conventional and ultimate bodhicitta happen, then what happens is that the obscurations, so although in the medium scope you're liberated, you haven't reached enlightenment, you still have obscurations on the mind stream that prevent you reaching enlightenment. But when emptiness, fully flourishing in the greater scope with the bodhicitta, removes all of those obscurations to omniscience and liberation. So that's something to, I mean, I know it, you're sort of going, oh, but try that. I know. You've no idea how I felt when I first heard this. I thought to myself, they've gone crazy. But how about, this is what I want you to understand. So when you're looking at this, understand that wisdom impinges on everything here. Everything. But it flourishes, completely, totally flourishes with bodhicitta in the great scope. Because it removes every single obscuration to liberation and enlightenment. It becomes that before. So, there are libraries written on emptiness. Libraries. So, what we can start thinking of is this. Okay. Everything that exists is either subject or object. That makes sense, doesn't it? Everything that exists. And can you think of anything that's not in there? You can say, everything that exists is either subject or object. So you think, well, I can handle that. Right. So the next step, you can say to yourself, well, everything that exists, all that exists, really, is either the observer, or that which is observed. And then you take it a step further and you say to yourself, wait a minute, not only the observer and that which is observed, but they're mutually dependent. Mutually dependent. One will not exist without the other. So that's the first thing you come to grips. That's how things are. Yet, when our mind and our senses come in contact with objects, other people, all phenomena, what we see is that everything actually has a self. Everything exists in and of itself. Everything appears to have some sort of inherent nature. Everything appears to exist by its own characteristics, not mutually dependent, not subject to object. Discrete lumps, that's what we see things of here. Discrete lump of you, a discrete lump of me, a discrete lump of the table. That's how we see it. Yet nothing exists in that way. Everything is subject to an object, mutually dependent. Everything is the observer and the observed, mutually dependent. But that's not how we see it. We see it the opposite. And you may say to yourself, oh, no, I don't think that's really true. But the Dharma is very clear. This is a very subtle understanding. It's not that we sit there and go, yeah, I kind of think that's coming from its own side. That's got itself, that's got, you don't think that. This way of viewing the world, ourselves, the whole world, is an innate ignorance. Innate. It's something that's traveled with us from lifetime to lifetime. Lifetime. It's not a cultural ignorance. It's innate. What makes it very difficult is that we misknow what's going on. So we're contacting objects, we look in the mirror, we see ourselves, we see others, we see all the phenomena. And we never even ask ourselves the question, in what way am I interacting with these objects. How do I view myself? How do I view these objects? You never think that. You never even ask yourself the question. Why? Because it's an innate ignorance. It's an innate misknowing of reality. Here's the clincher. It's not that we don't know things. It's that we misknow them. And if you've ever been in a position when you've tried to teach somebody something, right? Or you've tried to learn something when you know nothing about the topic, or they knew nothing about it, it's actually quite simple. They don't know, you teach them, they know. Have you ever tried to teach something to someone when they already know? They don't even think it's worth looking at it. It's not that they don't understand the teaching, they don't understand the question. They're already full of misknowledge. So when we look at the nature of reality, we're not dealing with something that's empty that needs to be filled. We're dealing with something that's full of misknowing that needs to be released. And because we're full of misknowing that needs to be released, then we have words that sound very negative, like emptiness. It has a connotation of being bad. It's not. Whenever you think emptiness in relation to wisdom, always think empty of. Never think the word emptiness without empty of. Empty of what? Empty of misknowing reality. So we say things like, things are selfless, and that sounds a bit selfless. Because the self that we perceive is concrete, unchanging, inherently existing. We need to let it go, and when we let it go, it becomes selfless. So this is why a lot of the words that we use in the nature of emptiness really sounds coming from the negative. But it's about letting go of misknowledge, not because it's bad. Does that make sense? That's why you have words like empty of, selfless, non-inherent existence. You have all these words, and it's about letting go of this misknowledge. Why do we want to let go of this knowledge? Because without doubt, misknowing reality is the source of every aspect of suffering in this life and every life we've had and every life to come. From the moment our senses hit an object, including our consciousness, from that moment we are misknowing reality. And if you remember, we looked at this diagram. Remember this diagram? It's another one of my favorites, especially Tasha's seventh diagram. Here. We talked about the Four Noble Truths. We talked about the truth of suffering and the truth of the origin of suffering. Well, there's your origin of suffering, ignorance itself. Ignorance itself. And here's why we keep suffering. Right at the very beginning, ignorance. It says here of selflessness of personal phenomena. So really what you're doing is every time any of your senses hit an object, we missee it. So it's wrong. It is an incorrect view of reality. This is the premise of the Dharma, incorrect view of reality. What happens with that incorrect view of reality? Every moment. It reinforces, because we see ourselves as having this inherent nature, this me, this idea of me, I and mine becomes very strong. Really, very strong. Me, I and mine. And when we have a strong feeling of me, I and mine, which by the way does not exist, right? The way we think, but still. Then that me, mine, and mine wants to grasp onto things, attachment to the me, the I. And it wants to push away, has an aversion for things that will actually impose on this E, I, and I. Yes? From that, you can't help but have delusions will come from that. Because you now engage in a lot of mental activity, anger, hatred, jealousy. All this negativities are going on. You've no choice. It's going to go on. Why? Where did it come from? It came from attachment and aversion. Is attachment and aversion positive? No. Where did that come from? Ignorance. Ignorance of what? Ignorance of how things exist. So we've got all this delusion going on in our head. The next step is we start to behave with our body, speech, and mind. How could we behave with body, speech, and mind completely positively when it has these antecedents? So we behave negatively. Even when we do things right, it's not completely right. It can't be, because it comes from the delusions, which come from the attachment and aversion, which come from not seeing reality. And these actions of body, speech, and mind completely. You engage in this suffering immediately, karmic seeds go into the mind. When the time comes and it meets the right causes and conditions, they arrive and you suffer again. If you trace it back to ignorance. That's your origin. You could actually say it a different way. You can say it like that. That's its origin, ignorance. Misknowing reality. Something that's innate that travels from life to life. That's important. This ignorance is not passive. This is the other thing I'm talking about. It's not like this lump hanging about. Oh, there's my ignorance. No, this is active. This is very active. Every moment this is active. And so it perpetuates, keeps this wheel of suffering going. Ignorance is not passive. And it keeps us in a perpetual cycling in samsara, a perpetual hallucination. That's what we live in. We live in a hallucination. We're actually asleep to reality. And so, with wisdom, understanding wisdom really means waking up. Wake up and smell the coffee. Wake up and see reality. And so, we're all like that. That's the difficulty. We're living in a hallucination. When the Buddha first achieved enlightenment, he was walking along the road and met someone. And this someone could see this was a special individual. And he said to the Buddha, "Are you a god?" And the Buddha went, "No, I'm not a god." He said, "Well, are you an angel of some sort?" He said, "No." He said, "Well, are you a spirit?" He said, "No." I said, "Well, what are you then?" And the Buddha said, "I am awake." What's that saying about us? Oh, totally asleep. How does this all come about? This innate ignorance. Why is it so difficult to grasp? Why do we find the question of this ignorance so difficult? Lama Zopa Rinpoche says, he explains it, he says it's like in 3 steps. First of all, the mind perceives an object, right? And merely labels that object. Now, I don't mean like this, I don't mean, well, that's a camera, label camera. This is very fast. In one snap of the fingers, hundreds of minutes. It comes with the territory. So the mind, first of all, perceives an object, and immediately labels that object. That's all. Label. And at that moment, there's no problem. At that precise moment, there's no no. You see the object, handy. Always good to see an object, don't bump into it. It's labeled. We live in the world, we need to label things, so that's fine. If it stopped there, we'd be fine. But almost in the wake of labeling comes a projection, a hallucination on top of this. A hallucination coming from past delusions, plus karma. And what is this main delusion? Inherent nature. We imbue the object as being inherently existing. Not even thinking about it, just we do it. And then, almost again at the same moment, we 100% believe the hallucination. So fast, so quick, so innate, that we don't even question it. We don't even question what the Dharma is saying. Really generate the questions that you never think of asking. And if the Dharma says, "Oh, we see all phenomena like that," well, that's true. But to get to grips with this, the sensible thing, and the key, Lama Zopa says, the key to success, Lama Zopa said the same thing, the key to success and really get the grip on understanding the empty nature is to identify what's called the object of negation. And that's a fancy way of saying, identify that which is not there. Right? This concrete, inherent, self-existing, and by its own nature thing. Right? Identify it. Because it's not as easy as it sounds. Make it visible. Make it visible. Make it as concrete as you can, and then just have on with it. That's a wonderful step. Because normally we don't even ask ourselves the question, let alone exaggerate it and try and look at it. Now, if we were trying to see identify the object of negation in this flask, it's a wee bit tricky. Kind of, you think, well, it's a flask. It does certain things. It's got bits and pieces. It's got a label flask. What are you talking about? You know, this inherent nature, this stuff. It's tricky. So, the wise person, Amazon Kappa says, the wise person, to identify the object of negation, looks at the of the self. Because one of the benefits of having a precious human leader is intelligence. We can use intelligence, creativity, visualization. We can search for that which does not exist, and we can expose it. And once you search for that which is not existing within ourselves, and we can exaggerate it, we can do all this, we can make it as clear as we can get it. You've got a chance to do something with it. And if you can do it with yourself suddenly, it becomes clearer with other people. You can see it in other people. And then when you apply that principle to all other objects, all other phenomena, they fall like dominoes. They fall like dominoes. So they tell me, I live in hope, but you know, they fall like dominoes. So we start with ourselves. We try and find that which does not exist. We try to really identify this concrete idea of self. And remember, we need to identify it because you can't do it otherwise. We need to get, and that's your biggest problem. The biggest problem is sitting there going, right, I'll just try and find the self. You know, it's so alien to our mindset. So we have to kind of trick it out. Once more, if we forget all the phenomena in ourselves, without thinking, no intelligence required, lifetime to lifetime, how do we see? We see as if there's something, and we believe 100%, not even a question, that within us, there is something called I, me, and mine, a self. It's concrete and unchanging, right? And this gives rise to self-cherishing, self-grasping and self-cherishing. And because of that, we create all our problems. This is the premise. Now, if you can catch that and expose it for what it is, then you've got a good chance of having very little attachment or any aversion, reducing the mental conflict, as well as living ethically, not producing extra karma, not suffering. The more you tackle this, the less the suffering becomes. That's why you know it's working. Because nobody can look in your mind and go, yeah, she's like 50%. No, you know it. You know it. Why? Because you can see the ramifications. It's important to understand how things work. The more you grasp how things actually are, then attachment and aversion lessen. You can feel it. Your delusions lessen. Your behavior becomes easily much more ethical. Easily. And your suffering decreases. And it's completely linked to how well we understand Emptiness. So we say that within us, it's almost like, if you've ever seen, I say this, if you've ever seen a film, any type of film where somebody dies, and then they show the spirit leaving the body, yeah? And it goes somewhere, yeah? That's what we think is in everything. We think we've got that. It's permanent, unchanging, and it's the source of all our trouble. So what we have to do is make that strong and look at it. Okay? So let's try. Let's go just gently. So using the 2 breath method is to quieten the mind and relax the body. So once more, that's breathing in through both nostrils, letting the belly fill, and out through the first bit like this for long out breath. And in that long out breath, just letting your whole body simply relax. You do that twice, then you just breathe normally. Now the premise here is that within ourselves, within our body and mind, we feel that there is a self which is inherently there. Concrete, unshakable, by its own nature, it's there. This is who I am. Let's see if we can get a taste of that. So, I'd like you to bring to mind the last time you were really angry about something. Really angry. Remember the situation. Remember a non-angry, you were just normal, then something happened and the anger arose. So think yourself through that situation from a non-angry, something happened and you got really angry. Try to feel how this strong sense of anger is totally dependent on a strong sense of I. See how a strong sense of self grasped at the anger. Something that seemed to be apart from your body and your mind, this inherent thing, grasped. Relaxing. Now remember the last time you were criticized. We've all been there. Remember the last time you were criticized. See the time just before the criticism. The criticism occurs, and then your reaction. You need to know. Feel how this feeling of anguish and being criticized totally dependent upon a strong sense of I, a strong sense of self. Now imagine you're sitting around in a group, maybe having a coffee, and someone in the group tells you that that day they had been extremely badly criticized and how upset they were. And you listen to this. When this criticism is of someone else, does it feel different to when you were criticized? In what way does it feel different? And relax. Can you get a feeling of this inherent self trapped, grasping on in the anger? You see that it's not just on its own anger. Something came from you, this idea of self, and made the anger its own. Now imagine you've gone for a walk on a cliff, just on the edge of a cliff. It's been raining for a few days and the ground beneath your feet is a bit soft. And before you know it, the ground begins to get low and you begin to fall on the cliff and the edge is getting closer and you can't do anything. Feel that eye that's suffering now, this predator. How does it feel to you? Observe it. This strong sense of I. How does it feel? With a detached sense of curiosity, observe it. And relax. Once more, remember the time you severely criticized, severely, exaggerated, big it up, bring it front and center to your mind, make it real. And mentally take a step back, and with a sense of curiosity, observe that I that was criticized. And fully relax. So, well done. We'll be saying this quite a few times. When you study this, it's very clear you exist, right? We just don't exist the way we think we do. This is the problem. Now, the first meditation, first way of thinking, what you were looking at was you're in a situation. What we think is, I got angry, right? I just got angry. It's just weird. I condemn that. This person did this, I got angry. That's okay. That's how we think. So and so did that, I was happy. So and so did that, or I was in this situation, I didn't care. It's like there is no space between the situation and you. It's just, that's me. I got angry, I got happy. What we're trying to do in the first meditation is to try and see the connection between a strong sense of I being there and necessary to be there for the anger to occur. The amount of anger and anger arising is totally dependent on the strong sense of I. And what you try and do in this first situation is, oh, it feels like this, I just got angry, and you do that. There's a strong sense of I, me and mine. You got angry. And it was necessary. Without that strong sense of I, what would have happened to the anger? Oh, it would disappear. Unless this I grasps it and keeps hold of it, and then the I's going quite right. And if she does that again, or he does that, and you do that, and you're ready for anything, you know. But what would happen if this little sense of I came up and you noticed and you went, down boy? This anger would hang about going, oi, it's me, come on. Because you're giving it no attention whatsoever, it disappears. Now it'll come back, but it's only hanging about, and it'll disappear. We make it ours. Something within us makes it ours. And that something is a strong sense of I. And that's the reason that something becomes. You don't exist, of course you exist. But you don't exist in this way, this ghost in the machine that's concrete, unending, unyielding, inherently there, by its own characteristics. This is the problem. This is the difficulty. This is what causes you suffering lifetime after lifetime. So one of the first steps is to see that this idea of self has to be there. It has to be there front and center for these deluded emotions to actually be stopped and to be there. That makes sense, doesn't it? That's the start with. Then going a bit further, you think to yourself, well, okay, but I don't really see it. You know, okay, there's some logic there. I kind of think I know what you're saying, but I don't feel it. Now, this is when you start remembering a situation or fabricating a situation that makes that I come front and center. It can't happen. So criticism is always a good one, because I don't care what anybody says. I've never yet had constructive criticism that actually helped me. I know it's meant to. Nobody likes being criticized. Something happens immediately. Somebody criticizes you, and it's like something inside you goes strong, solid, and unchanged. Are you speaking about me? It's like this. You almost become rigid. It's almost like the now. If you can remember a situation like that, or a situation where you got extremely angry or extremely frightened, really big it up, exaggerate it, and then mentally you're capable of this, mentally stepping back and looking. And if you don't feed it, it disappears. It may come back, but it will disappear again. It only hangs back and causes suffering when you grasp into it. But you need to see it. First of all, you have to see it separate from what the situation. You have to see design, you have to see it, and you see how it works. That's important. Then you start asking yourself the question, where was this sense of I before this situation? Where was it? We're so sure of who we are, of what we are, this strong sense of I. Surely it's there. Hard to find a way. And then after the situation resolves itself, where does it go? That's what you become interested in. Where did it go? This strong sense of I. And the teachings say it's a bit like, in order to understand emptiness, things that are empty of this self, you must first identify this self. That's the problem. This is what we have the difficulty with. Once you're able to identify it, then you've got a running chance of finding it. And they say it's a bit like a thief in a room. So you're given a party, and somebody says to you, there's a thief in this room. And you look around, and you can't see it. You don't know. You know. So how can you do anything about this thief? You can't. And first of all, you won't believe there is a thief. Just because this person said it. You can't see. Can you see a thief? You can't see a thief. No. If somebody says to you, this thief is 6'2", blonde hair with a scar on his left cheek, you go, oh, there he is. Yeah, you can identify it. Once you identify, you can do something with it. The problem is the thief now goes hiding. It hides. Now you have to search, but you know what you're searching for. Right? So this is the importance of understanding what it is, the object that is not there. That's what's important. Okay, you've got 15 minutes. I'd like you in groups of 4 just to discuss those 2 meditations. Now, I am aware you often forget the first meditation. I know. So the first meditation, remember, was seeing how dependent a strong sense of I was in order to be anchored. That's important. Then the second one, the cliff edge, when you got frightened, the fear came up, and you tried to step back and look at what it is, this object that we believe so 100%. Now, when you first start doing this, I know you sit there in groups and go, no idea what you're talking about. Or maybe you do, I don't know. But don't let that put you off. What's important at the moment is asking the question, not so much getting the answer. Ask the question. Is there a question there to be asked? Is it possible that within me there is something that I think is concrete and solid, and this needs to be there in order for me to have the anger, to have the jealousy? It is this strong sense of me, I, and mine that's causing this, nothing else. Is it? Okay. These 15 minutes maximum, in groups of not more than 4. And these 2 ladies are new, so include, that's nice. Even if it's just your experience of that meditation, that's important.
Altså jeg kan godt sådan, du kunne nemt blive nogle af mig, der se det, men det er måske ikke det var sådan jeg er specielt det er jo Hvis jeg nu det tror jeg, men så bliver jeg ikke bare sådan her. Når jeg tænker, at der er nogen, der forestiller sig det, det lyder som om, det er bare landvejen.
Der er mange håber, at det ikke er
Ja, jeg har jeg siger, når man har et minister, er det ikke ærligt, eller er det ikke begyndt at arbejde? Ja, det er hvad? Det er flyve. Jeg synes ikke, at der er en der er desperation. Før har man måske okay, nu ved vi, at jeg ikke lyst til at gøre dig ondt. Det vil jeg ikke gøre, men jeg har ikke lyst til at gøre mig selv ondt. Hvordan siger jeg bare ikke det, for at jeg så det vil tilbage til en rigtig kasse eller hvad? Nej, ja, men det bliver måske bedre, arbejder med at blive rejst. Jeg har ikke så kommer ind til at mange og så har jeg nået til
når det er eksternt, er det det er jo også, ja, attachment
No way out. No way.
Som andre følelser, ikke? Men hvad gør du så? Ser Gud, eller eller folk ligesom at adskille sig. Jeg har spurgt for en, der ikke nej.
So I rate the feedback because you've been discussing very strongly. My prayer was on the empty nature of the eye, but we'll see. So what type of things did you come up with? Yeah, this is where everybody goes. You cannot hide.
About the
certainly you can't seem to find it.
No complication. There is a complication, but then it's all very easy to see the
So we're clear that when we use the word I, like a normal conversation, there's no problem with that. Some sort of dependently arising concept of who we are, this is not a problem. It's the self-existing, inherently so, I, this self that seems to exist. That's what we're talking about, right? Okay. Because sometimes, I mean, in the beginning, that can be difficult for people to understand, but there's a conventional I, there's no problem with that. No problem with that. It's this other I which is, causes the trouble. And so where was it beforehand?
It was a mind system.
Oh.
It didn't exist before there was the concentration.
Ah. So it needed the confrontation to exist.
Yeah.
Interesting. So the confrontation, the anger, gave birth to the self. Well, it's worth thinking about.
Yeah.
It's worth thinking about. This is the questions you have to start asking because they're so close. They feel so close. You think, I've had people say to me, "What's a chicken and egg situation?" And what they're really saying is, "You can't. You know, it's hard to do this."
Yeah,
So-
but it feels like the concentration.
Good. Whatever it feels like, you question it further. You go deeper. You start to taste it. Start to taste it. Try to see. It's not like you've given me the answer, but there's a mutual dependency there.
Yeah, yeah. You came with that.
Excellent, excellent. And where did it go at the end? Yeah. And is this the same type of I that occurs when you're really, really happy? You know, when somebody gives you exactly what you want. The sense of I comes quite strong then. Is it the same one? Does it feel the same? Does it behave the same? You have to ask yourself. Is it there? How is it behaving? Is it the same eye? Do I have many eyes? Or there's just one that keeps changing its clothes? You start asking yourself these questions. Good questions. What else came up?
Continuation is a moment of intensity. Give rise to the identification of the self. Self identifies itself because of moments of intensity.
Okay.
And between those moments of intensity, there's nothing to do. There's nothing to say, nothing to be. This is why I guess there's a habit of looking for moments of intensity so that the self will be reinforced.
Yes. And that's what it feels like. But the more you study, and the more you reflect, and the more you meditate, is that you realize that every movement of mind has this self. It's only in these extreme situations that you can make it show itself. Right? And that's why these extreme situations become very important. So you're the person that really annoys you, you got angry with the last time, and you kind of, you're your best friend. Bring it up. Use it in your meditation. Because every movement of mind has this eye. But you can't see it. You just can't see it. It doesn't feel as if it's there. It is in perfect disguise. But it cannot hide in moments of extremes. So that's why we exaggerate these moments of extremes, and so we mentally step back and go, there you are. And the eye just does not like it. I mean, if you look at it. And if you don't engage, it's there. Don't engage, it just disappears. You go, where did you go? That becomes important. Because then you see it rising and falling. Right? Where did it rise from? Where is it going to? What you know is when it's there, it causes you all the trouble that you will ever suffer. That's what's causing it. What else came out of your discussion? There's a lot of discussion. I heard them. I heard them. Filters. Okay.
There are when I observe my anger, it was different when I observe the anger of somebody else. But if you put a filter between the anger and me, I can see myself as like as another person, like a picture.
Yes.
And it helps a lot just to distance.
Very useful.
Perspective.
Very useful. This ability to mentally step back, you learn that in the several types of meditation. But you just do it, I mean, really, you learn. And just, you've got that ability just to take this mental step back. I mean, one part of mind is capable of looking at another part of it. That's very true. So just use it this way. Use it this way. Really look at it. What else can you?
Even like techniques, I think, what methods to be involved. One of them is like a 90-second rule. Something you're realizing, an emotion, a feeling, a sensation you're realizing. Okay, I'm going to count 90 at least, or 100. And then wait to what happens. So there's one teacher who said it takes 90 seconds for this apparition to manifest.
Oh, really?
And then also to pass. And then once it's been waiting for 90 seconds, and then it's nothing to hold on to.
Just go. Because I like shorter forms of things. And he's probably, I mean, I don't know, he's probably completely correct. So this is a psychological look at truth. This is from psychology, right? Okay.
So if you don't feel it, so one design was that say the 15 days, that would be a good one. You don't feel to stay with it. You don't feel
You see, and that's true. It depends what you want to do. You can use that. It depends on what you want to do. If you want to look at that jealousy, I mean, really look at it and think, what is this self that's jealous? You know, let's have a look at that. That's fine. And then 90 seconds be enough. But if you're thinking, how I'm going to do it is just avoid it, or just move on, or just give it no attention at all you really have to do is shift your focus. So it depends what you want to do. If you want to be getting on with something, then just shift your focus. Right? But if you want to throw it down, but if you want to, it's not so much let it go, because it will go anyway. But it's useful. These emotions that we feel, this heart that we feel, really, it's going to be there anyway. So make use of it. It's only energy. It takes a bit of courage. But staying with it for say 90 seconds and just mentally stepping back and looking, how wonderful. Never feed it. Never feed it. Never.
90 seconds is not long.
Don't want for me, but I mean, but I like things quick and fast. But I mean, some people sit with it for a long time. But the thing about it is, as you say, even if you try to sit longer, it won't be there. It just will not be there. It has no power other than what you give it. It has no power other than what you give it. You see, and that wakes up certain things in our mind. It becomes closer to the idea that you find out in karma, you know, like wisdom feeding back now to karma, feeding back to karma. Really, what does karma tell you? You create your own happiness, and you create your own unhappiness. We are the authors of this. Karma tells you this. It's not that other people and other events don't have an effect, of course, but they're not the final effect. So suddenly you go back and do a karma meditation with this little understanding of emptiness. It becomes very tasty indeed. You can see why you create your own enemies. You can see how you create your own happiness and unhappiness. We create it. We're the authors. And there's wisdom just feeding into that. Why? Because we make it real. We see it as solid, unchanging, this inherent nature thing, which does not exist. This doesn't. We exist. Of course we exist. That is very clear. We exist. We exist dependent. We exist in a dependent way. We're dependent on causes and conditions, dependent on the label, you know, dependent on our parts. We are dependently arising. And this is called the king of reasoning. When it comes to looking at emptiness, certainly within the belief that All schools of Tibetan Buddhism have dependent arising, as the king of music. The group of take it really the most subtle understanding of we have no problem saying I live, I travel, I do this, I do that. Do I exist? Right, I exist, of course I exist. But I don't exist the way I think I exist. I don't exist in a solid, inherent, unchanging way. This is suffering. It's ignorance and it's suffering. I exist, as does everything else, without exception. Everything. We exist conventionally, and the Dharma will say you exist in two ways. There's a conventional way you exist, an independent arising way, this is how you exist. And we also exist in an ultimate way, which is empty of this inherent nature. So you come to how things actually are through dependent arising. So you come this way, right? Come at it this way. I exist in this way. This is how I exist. I do not, this is dependent arising, coming out of this way. This is reality, coming out of it. Here, I exist without inherent nature. Ultimate. And when these two meet, our whole world manifests. That's how it manifests. With the meeting of the conventional way things exist, dependent, and the ultimate way things exist, the lack of inherent nature. So when you're studying emptiness, what you're coming at the reality from how things do not exist. They do not exist in this way, they lack this, right? You come at it this way, this is how they exist. And our world begins to function when these two meet. They are not different. They're coming at it in a different way. And so, certainly within this school, looking at emptiness through dependent arising is very wise. It's very wise because when you start to study emptiness, and it's a big study, you come at it from a psychological point of view. This is a school, you study it from a psychological perspective, very important, and you study it from an epistemological viewpoint, right? And at one stage, these two have got to come together, and then it gets a bit tricky. But it's interesting. It's interesting. But if you keep in mind how things actually do exist, this dependent arising, then you don't fall into two extremes. And this is why it's a king of reason. When people study emptiness, because it's challenging the way we see everything, people can fall into difficulties. People can fall into a very nihilistic state. You can come to a logical conclusion that nothing exists. You see what I'm saying? If you really look at the empty nature of something, without seeing how things actually do exist, there's a danger of falling into a kind of nihilistic viewpoint. And that's very hard to come back from. That's hard to come back. And Lama Zopa Rinpoche often says that, people who are brighter, who are more, that tends to be where they err from the nihilistic state. And sometimes when you're studying emptiness, you come to the conclusion that everything exists as it appears. Both of these are errors, and they're hard to come back from. But it's actually quite hard to fall into these errors if you view emptiness through dependent arising. If you start early enough to see that things exist on a conventional level and exist on an ultimate level. Emptiness shows you how things don't exist. In the brain, dependent arising shows you how it doesn't. And these two line up. That's important. And when you start viewing it like this, then wisdom starts to take quite strong hold in you. And wisdom is a mental factor. This is not something that you buy into, that somebody gives you wisdom. You already have wisdom. It's a mental factor. It's part of your Buddha nature. And the mind that's being calmed down by ethical by ethics. They say that that type of mind has a natural tendency to move towards wisdom, a natural tendency to see things as they are. Just by calming the mind a bit, it will move towards. And there is a logic in how things exist. It is possible to understand the nature of emptiness through intelligence alone. Therefore, as this woman says, it's possible to understand liberation through intelligence. Now, that's not the same as saying that you experience it, that takes something else. But you need to be able to understand it. But if we can calm the mind with all the methodologies we've been talking about today, we really calm it down with the ethics. Really, there seems to be a natural tendency for the mind to move towards seeing things as they are. Then you try and help it along by studying. Study. See how things are in the system. Challenge everything. Believe nothing. Believe nothing. Start to ask the questions and challenge that you would never even consider asking. Is there something coming from me? It seems to be that has to be there for anger to arise. Just seeing that. Do I really see? Am I sure that I think that I have this unchanging self? Because the Dharma says you have. Well, that's hard to see. So use the methodologies given, exaggerate it, and then use your meditation techniques to mentally step back and look at it. This idea that Lama Zopa Rinpoche says that when you first see an object, you perceive it and label it. It's just like automatic. But along in the wake of that label, it's this complete hallucination of inherent existence. Come on. And then in the same wake is 100% belief. Of course that's true. Imagine you were all in a delivery room, right? So somebody's having a baby, right? You're all in there. Most of us thinking, I'm glad it's not me. So let's say the baby is born, right? And the midwife, and there's this baby, and the midwife turns to the husband and says, "That's fantastic, I've got a lovely baby boy. What name?" And the husband says, "Well, I've always wanted to call my son Fred." And you're all looking at the baby, aren't you? Before they decided it was Fred, it was just like legs, arms, bits. And you're looking at the baby and you're thinking, Fred. And isn't there a kind of Fredness is coming here, right? Yeah, well, it's almost like a Fredness is appearing, right? And you're thinking, yeah, Fred, yeah, I can see. And then the mother says, over my dead body. No son of mine will be called Fred. The child will be named Michael. And the husband, being sensible, goes, of course, here. So you're looking at the child, right? And Fred disappears. The Fredness of that baby disappears. And you're looking, and then the midwife takes the baby away, gets it all washed, and you go and see the baby afterwards, right? And there's maybe a half a dozen babies there. And you go, well, there's Michael. There. There is a Michaelness coming at you. It's almost like in and of itself, right in there, there is a Michaelness. Yes? Rinpoche gives the example like this. So you go to school, first day at school, and I'm thinking obviously about the British school. So the children are sitting there, and the teacher says to the child, "Do you know what an A is?" A. The child goes, "No." So well, watch this. The teacher does a line like this, a line like this, and a line like this. And they say to the children, "What's that?" The child goes, "Chalk." No idea. So the teacher said, "No, this is A. This and and this part, and this part. That's A. And you go, A. A is for apple. Oh. A is for animals. So you go all there. So after a few days, when the child comes into the classroom, there's all these letters up, and the teacher says, which one is A? And you go, that one. Right? It's almost like there's an A calling out, as if there's something apart from that stroke, and that stroke. And apart from the fact that I put A onto that, there seems to be something there's A-ness about that. See? This is what we do. Apart from our bits, all our aggregates, apart from our body and our mind combination, it's as if there is something still within this that is essentially here, unchanging, concrete in itself. Sometimes it gets small, sometimes it gets big, yeah? That is what does not exist. It does not exist. It has never existed. It doesn't exist now, and it will never exist. But we believe it does, and we act as if it does. And that's where the suffering comes from. What do you think? It's worth a study, isn't it? I mean, come on. Of all the things you could be doing, this is worth this is worth looking at. This is definitely worth pursuing. Aha. What do you think? What type of questions did you have? I was going to do another meditation, but you might know. There's some really tasty meditations on this, because if we ever get together and do this, we'll play a game called Hunt the Eye. We'll find it. Right? It's a really great tasty meditation where you really search everywhere for this eye. But first of all, you have to know what you're looking for. That's important. And if you're reading about emptiness, reading it, it gets complicated, go back to seeing the anger being dependent on the sense of I. Go back to seeing there seems to be something within me, apart from all my bits, apart from all my labor, something that seems to come. Go back to that. Because once you know what you're looking for, you can then apply it in any meditation, and there's some really good meditations.
Are you looking for the emptiness?
Are you looking for the emptiness? Emptiness is what you find. Empty of. Always think empty of. It's much easier to think empty of.
Do you think that's kind of looking?
The empty nature, yes. Yes. But you can see it in different ways. Because you can see it through seeing that something is there is nothing in this world that is not mutually dependent. There is nothing that you can think of that isn't dependent on is not dependent on other things. I can't quite say all this because it's dependent on things. There is nothing. And so you can see, can't you? If it's dependently arising, two things. One, it exists in this particular way. But two, you can say, if it's dependently arising, it has to be empty. The two are mutually exclusive. If something is, so you can search for emptiness in emptiness, sure. You can search for it through dependent arising. You will come to the same conclusion. But one of the reasons that this is the king of reason is if something is dependently arising, it cannot be empty. It cannot be, it has to be empty. It cannot have an independent nature. And if something, so you can see, everything that exists is empty of inherent nature. That sounds good, eh? And it's true. But you can also say, because it exists, it is empty. And this is the beauty of studying emptiness with dependent arising. And if you study it that way, then falling into the extremes, that would be quite difficult. Because you start to get a taste of what is meant to be conventional and ultimate wrong. And you see that emptiness is really the ultimate nature of how things exist, how things don't exist. It doesn't have the same nature. And dependent rising tells you how things exist conventionally. And they're not contradictory. They're not contradictory. And when you start seeing things, you know, it's sometimes harder to say, that's empty. Empty of what? Inherent nature. I'm empty. Of what? The inherent nature of things. But you can say, because I exist, and because I exist dependently, there's no inherent existence. Can't have it. Not possible. So it becomes very, very useful. So when you're studying this and you're reflecting on it, always reflect on it too. Because when you meet, that's when I work functions. And it does function. No falling into neighbours.
We had a point. What can we use this for? You know, so when you were approaching the cliff, you went deep, and so then hold on to whatever it is. So it's the me, the mind, and the thing. So what are those things that we're holding on to? The body. I was holding on to within my body, whatever I thought was me. But when I realized that the edge of that cliff was now a certainty, there was no point in holding on to any of that. So that was the release of the electron.
It's possible to take it that way. I only use that. Really, it's to highlight the eye. You can take it further, of course. What would I then do? Well, personally, I'd be scrambling around trying to survive. I mean, I would be letting go of anything. I'd be hanging on tight. So it depends what you're doing with it. All of this is depending on what you're doing. It's true. I don't know about you. Until my nails gave way. I like this life. I enjoy this life. This is a precious human rebirth. I'm not terribly existential, to tell you. Anyway, no, so you can do it, and you can use it in many different ways, and it'll be valid. But this particular exercise is really just to highlight the eye. That which hides, that which is so difficult. Making it strong. So putting yourself in situations, mental situations where this comes around, that's what it's falling in. It's just to shine a light on that. Show your face. Show it. Show your face.
Not even that will save you.
Will save it.
Will stop the inevitable now. Because death was that is now certainty. So none of that identification is now going to stop that.
What will happen is grasping, mental grasping onto life.
That's what we
It's one of you pushing for future. Any other questions? It's worth exploring this further, isn't it? I mean, come on. Everything else pales into insignificance. It really does. And then you start to get a little hold, not much, but a little bit, I don't know. But you get a little bit of a hold on it. And every other part of the lambing becomes even more tasty. You see how it actually reflects and shines a light on all of it. This is what makes it deeper. This is what makes you look at your precious human rebirth in a more wise light. Karma, shamatha, all these things. When you shine the light of wisdom on it, it becomes deeper, vaster. So not only is it a topic, the whole wisdom way, but it just shines the spotlight on all of it. I want to thank you all very, very much for putting up with me for 3.5 weeks. Well done. If there was a medal to be struck, I would strike it now and give it to you. But I want to thank all of you. I felt very welcome, really. I felt very welcome, very cherished. Everybody's been very kind. I've had lots of coffee, lots of lunches out, so I'm quizzing. I don't know about you. And I do hope to see you again. Thank you so much. And of course, you don't get away without more prayers.
I just say something first, Robert, just on behalf of the center. So I know that all of us are very happy to get stuck with you for 3 weeks. And, I can honestly say that you being here, especially in the period in the center where you can have a regular teacher, has really meant a lot to this community. And I know that from everyone has really enjoyed these 3 weeks of teaching. Your presence in the center has really created something special. So thank you very much for that. Thank you so much.
Very well.
And please, on behalf of them, take this little gift from us. And we really hope also that you will visit us again here.
I would be so delighted. Really. I mean, I'm so delighted.
So thank you very much. And I know that a few other people have also collected.
Yes, thank you for coming here and teaching us. It has been absolutely fantastic. And we really hope you want to come back.
I do. That's very kind. This is all, of course, going towards me wanting to come back. That's very kind. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's our first.
Okay.
Oh, thank you so much. Right, okay. So, in the world today, how many people have the wish to even think about the nature of the sun? How many? 7 billion people on the planet. How many people do this? How many people want to explore emptiness in order to liberate not just themselves, but all living beings? Because this is the key. So what we're doing here tonight, what you're doing is rare. It's very, very rare. And so the ramification from that is that you will have, it's gone on your mind stream now. And what you want now is you want this to meet the right causes and conditions and rightly positive. What we can't afford is to have a moment of anger that ruins this positive. And so these dedication prayers, what we're doing is remembering our motivation and now focusing the energy we've generated in something so rare and so precious and aim it towards that so that it becomes deeply impacted. And when we make those causes and conditions, then we benefit. Okay? So what we're doing now, this is very rare. So that's why we're doing any excuse. The first the 4 verses of this dedication prayer. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha, and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme pure bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samanthabhadra too realize things as they are, I too dedicate all these merits in the best way, that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these fruits of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by the victorious ones thus gone of the 3 times, so that I might perform the good works. Please travel home safely. Thank you so much.
I just had one practical announcement as well. So on Thursday, there will be another teacher coming to the center who will be teaching on the Heart Sutra this Thursday and the next coming Thursday. And also we will be leading a retreat the weekend, starting Friday evening, Saturday and Sunday, on what is called Shamatha. So it's basically a kind of, you could say, mindfulness in the Buddhist tradition, so really the Buddhist concepts of mindfulness. And next week we'll be teaching on Vipassana, which is also an explanation of Buddhist mindfulness. So these are Shamatha and Vipassana, the core concepts of what you could call mindfulness in Buddhism. So it's possible there's still plenty of spaces for that. So one can attend this Friday evening by donation, or you can attend Saturday only, or the whole day if you want to. So we hope to see you there. Thank you.